Hey, good evening, everybody. Marcus says he wants to see the dogs. Well, you may see one, or you never know. At least in the art, I have a feeling you will. So welcome to the show, everybody. It's a wonderful Tuesday evening here in Central Florida. Last show before Christmas and last show before I go back home. So next week is going to be pretty light. So I hope you enjoy tonight's show. I've got a longtime CAF member joining me, and it's going to be fun. And as people have been pointing out, yes, I did hang some art on the walls. Finally, they are not permanent. They will get moved around. I've got a space for something special at some point, but yeah, it's nice. It finally feels like home around here now that I've got a few pieces on the wall. I've got some photos you can't see over here. Yeah, it's starting to feel like home. So, but let's get things going here. Let me get my guest on the stream with me. Hello, Shannon.
Hey, Bill. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. How about yourself?
I am doing very well.
So you've got a pretty nice art setup behind you. I mean, I'm assuming you didn't just put that art up there for today's conversation.
I did not. I moved with my wife's help a few pieces around but no, everything on the wall is always on the wall.
Yeah, good. When I've been down here since the middle of August and hadn't put any art on the wall, because my intent was I didn't like the wall color, so I felt like I had to paint it first. But now I realize it might take me a year to paint the walls at the pace I'm at.
If not for my wife, this room would have never been painted.
Well, you got so those are a couple DPSs
yes,
over your right shoulder.
At the top is Black Adam and the Heroes of Kondak from JSA, and then below that is Shadow Pact with you can't see him very well, but in the lower right hand panel, one of my all time favorite characters, Rex the Wonder Dog, and that is by my good friend and Antwerp's favorite artist, Steve Scott.
Oh, very nice. And there's a color piece around the corner. It looks like you have a very nice space to work when you're at home.
Oh, yes. That color piece is actually Grogu, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, the child from Mandalorian by James Hans, the Wookiee the Chew artist.
Very nice. Well, that's cool. And it looks like you have some friends in the audience as well, so that's nice.
Yes, I do. I've invited lots of people tonight. So, Robert, thank you for joining us, and always good to see Anand and Chris, who very much encouraged me to do this.
Oh, well, Christopher Daly knows a few things about hanging artwork. Have you ever seen his CAF video?
Yes, I have.
He has an amazing collection of art and a presentation like no other.
Yes, yeah, it really is amazing. I mean, I used to think that, honestly, before I discovered CAF, every time I bought a page, 3 out of 4 times I would frame the page. But I think Christopher's system is frame everything, which I like.
You've got to have a lot of wall space to do that, though.
Definitely, and
you could tighten up your presentation a little bit. I mean, I can see, over your left shoulder, you could probably, spread them a little bit and have another column there. It could work.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So tell me a bit about yourself, Shannon, as far as how you got started in the hobby. Comics. Where did your art passion come from?
So the comics first. When I was 7, my father. I lived in Macon, Georgia, and my father, Neil Weathers, stopped by a Chichester's Drugs not far from where we lived and bought me Batman 272, which is the Crime Olympics of 1976. This was back when I was 7 in 1975. It had Jose Luis Garcia Lopez art. And I was hooked from then on. Of course, as you remember, comics back then were about 25 cents. There were a few 20-cent comics still on the rack, so I have a few from those days as well. And from then on, that was sort of my treat. Each year at Christmas, beginning that year in 75, I would get 2 or 3 comics in my stockings, my Christmas stocking. I have relatives discovered that I loved comics, and I still have a stack of comics. They're not in a stack anymore. They're dispersed through my collection, which I call the Aunt Gail collection, because my aunt scratched out the price on every one of them before she gave them to me. And the 2 noteworthy ones I remember from that are Avengers 156 and Avengers 157. And I every time I laugh every time I see those, and I think of her where she has scratched the price out. But I initially I dabbled in a little bit of everything. I truly was not a collector. I mean, I was a 7 or 8 year old. One of the comics that I got into the most, which helped grow my love that most people on here know about of Krypto the Superdog, was Superman Family. Superman Family, for whatever reason, was one of the few comics that the grocery store Piggly Wiggly in Macon, where I was from, carried. I was just joking with a friend today about that. Where the grocery store near him carried Batman Family. So I always had the Superman families, and he always had the Batman families. But the first comic I ever truly collected was in 1980, and that was Wolfman and Perez's New Teen Titans. And then I guess the first Marvel I ever collected was the J.M. DeMatteis Don Perlin run on Defenders. Mm-hmm. My favorite comic. As far as art goes, initially I was very interested in what I considered to be the exclusive ad posters at comic stores. So I collected those when I could get them, or I could convince a dealer to give me one or even sell me one. I collected those posters, and I still have I know this, those of you who know me well, this won't shock anyone, that I have a plastic box of those ad posters downstairs. I also, I don't know how I got on the mailing list, but do you remember Pacific Comics back in the early 80s? Mm-hmm. Steve Shane's. So I got on Bud Plant's catalog list and Steve Shane's catalog list, and I would constantly look through those, and I became a big Greg Hildebrandt fan just by looking at the little Pacific ads for him, like his Gods and Goddesses portfolio and that sort of thing. With art, my very first sketch, which you'll see tonight, is I got at a tiny comic convention in Hickory, North Carolina, where I was living at the time, when Steve Bissett and John Toddleben came to a small Howard Johnson's. And I'll go ahead and tell this story now, even before we get to the sketch. They were charging $10 for sketches at that con. And Bissett,
what year was, what do you remember the year?
It is 1984, October 1984. I had to look at it. Sorry. So Bissett, it was kind of funny because Toddleben was sort of the quiet genius at that show, and he had his head down drawing the whole time. And Bissett was the front man, and he did the talking, and super, super nice guy. And he said, I asked him how much they cost, and he said, well, $10, but for $15, we can do something really nice. And I said, I'll just stick with the 10. So I paid John Toddleben $5 for an Abby Arcane sketch, and I paid Steve Bissett $5 for a Swamp Thing sketch. So, and that was, that's my very first piece of any type of comic art I owned. I don't even know if I'd really even thought about sketches prior to going to that show and saw that they were drawing them. And if you do a search of these guys, you will find there are a number of pieces on Comic Art Fan that were drawn that day in Hickory. My friend David Peeler has a Dracula, and Timothy Finney in Japan has an Abby Arcane that Toddleben drew. So that was my very first sketch. And from then on, and Bissett always compliments John Toddleben on the way he draws beautiful women. So and of course, Bissett himself is so great at drawing monsters. I see Southern Comic Geeks offer $30 to triple my money. I am going to decline. I really do appreciate that, though. And then after that, I bought a Green Arrow sketch from Mike Grell at one of Shelton Drum's stores when Shelton had many, well, I don't know about many, but he had a handful of Heroes stores sprinkled throughout the Carolinas. At another small con in North Carolina, I bought a Lords of the Ultra Realm sketch of the Prince of Rage by Pat Broderick, and that's on my wall as well. I did not buy a page.
I was just going to ask you, so initially it was always
sketches,
and you weren't looking at published pieces just yet.
I wasn't, and it wasn't that I wasn't aware they existed. I was, in fact, I hate to even confess this, but some of you already know it. It's my greatest missed opportunity ever. Comics Buyer's Guide, if you remember the great comic book newspaper, which was the one of the centers of my universe back then. They had an ad for art for my all-time favorite comic in retrospect. I don't know if I knew it was going to be back then, but it was Swamp Thing Annual #2, Down Amongst the Dead Men.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have purchased a page for $68 on sale from $85. I missed that opportunity. In fact, I even had talked to the dealer about it, and I planned to do it. But at the time, I was a teenager with no job, and that was literally all the money I had. I have never seen a page from that comic for sale. And I don't mean I saw it for sale at $10,000. I mean, I've never seen another page offered again after that day. So that's my greatest missed opportunity ever.
Do you remember which dealer had that?
You know, I honestly don't know. I probably have the Comics Buyer's Guide with that ad in it somewhere, but I honestly don't know who it was. You know, with certain pages, I'm sure all of you have seen this too. There's certain pages, especially like with Mike Berkey and Anthony Snyder. There's one Teen Titans page that I've watched change hands between them 2 or 3 times. But I don't know who had these pages, but yeah, at least I have my Swamp Thing sketch, so I'm happy about that anyway. I will say that one of the great things about comics for me too is even before I built so many friendships through CAF and the art world. I mean, my friend David Jones, who I just mentioned with the Batman family, you know, he and I basically discovered Teen Titans together. Later in high school, Kevin Yee and David Peeler, both from Hickory, were my other 2 comic book friends. Kevin was never really into art, but David was a bit. And, you know, I feel like comics have helped me, and now especially art these days, but have helped me build lifelong friendships.
Well, it's I can attest to the same thing, right? I mean, comics are the great unifier in my life. I mean, I've met a lot of great friends in the hobby, and it's funny. Even my closest friends growing up collected comics. You know, when I was in high school or even junior high, somebody who I'm going to get to see over the holiday is, you know, he and I bonded over comics.
Right.
You know, so yeah. I mean, it's a hobby that is good in that way. I mean, you develop some lasting friendships, I think, from this. I mean, because it's fun. I mean, even on the arts, even before the art side, I enjoyed it. But the arts, now that I've gotten on to collecting for the last 20 years, the friendships I've made there have just been amazing. And it goes beyond that. I mean, you get friendly with the dealers, and you get friendly with the artists who are making the art. It's a hobby that has a lot of different touch points that other hobbies just don't have, and I think that's what's really unique about it. Sports cards, it's just not the same. I mean, you can't get that same enjoyment that I think we get out of the hobby, and it's unique and special, and it's something that I cherish now more than ever, because it is something I realize how special our hobby is.
Definitely.
So you had a really great start with the Toddleben piece. I mean, that's not a place I think most people would say they probably got to start at. I mean, did you go to that show thinking, knowing they were there and knowing they were sketching, or did you get there and just realize they were offering it and you decided to try it?
It's funny because I never do autographs now, or almost never, but I went there to meet those guys because they were my idols, and Swamp Thing was my favorite book. And no, I didn't know they'd be sketching, but when I saw they were sketching, I immediately wanted something. and I'm glad I didn't have to choose between them. I still wish I had gotten the $15 sketch, but I'm glad I got something from both of them. But no, I wasn't there for art. It was just, once I discovered it was a possibility, I knew I wanted it. And then, I was at least hooked on sketches from that point.
So Dave Jones mentions that you got him started in comics when he was 5 years old.
That's right. Dave is the son of my second grade teacher that I'm still in touch with, Carolyn Jones, one of the greatest people I knew or know. And Dave and I still talk comics when we see each other a couple of times a year.
Well, that's awesome. I can't say I've turned anybody on the comics, except for my kids. I guess I've got that going for me. Comics and art. My children have definitely got an appreciation for both. What does Jay Roberts say? Comics allow you to share more than just the product. You're sharing stories they tell, which is, yeah, no, that's true. I would very much agree with that. Pardon me. So when, well, why don't we, you mentioned that first comic, and so I think maybe it might be fun to show that piece of artwork that we had mentioned earlier, and that was this one here, because a few people said having this be your first comic and it being Garcia Lopez, that is a really great place to start, to train you on what really great art is, and here you've eventually found a page from that issue.
I did. It was funny because once I started buying pages, which was in the early part of the 2000s, that was my number one search on eBay, Batman 272 original art, and nothing ever popped up, right? And I honestly don't remember. I remember who I bought it from. His handle was something like Tiger or Tigger, and I discovered he had one of the reasons I'd never been able to find any pages from the book is that he had been trying to put the whole book together. He had 10 pages, but he had eventually had given up and had started selling them. I believe this is the page that taught me the word confidential and precisely, which I started using at the age of 7. I know it's in the story. I think it's in this page. So, but yes, I was thrilled to get this. I actually wound up getting 2 pages. One of this fight scene from page 2 with Batman fighting one of the crime Olympic teams, and another page that's also in my CAF gallery is the Batman or Bruce Wayne talking to the person that will later be the random murder victim of one of the crime teams. And then a few years back, pre-pandemic, I was able to meet Jose at a con and get this autographed. So I was thrilled to get that. So you'll find that I'm a very, very sentimental fellow, and a lot of my collection is sentiment driven, almost even more than animal driven. And oh yes, definitely, Fred. It is an awesome cover. In fact, I have the cover color guide by Tatjana Wood in my gallery as well, which I bought from her nephew a few years back on eBay. Nice. So, but yes, definitely a comic that is near and dear to my heart. In fact, I still have the original copy, but it's one of those that I tend to buy when I see it again for reason I don't know. But I do love this comic.
Well, that's amazing. And I thought that was interesting that you mentioned that there were the 2 words that you learned from comics. I think a lot of people mention that they learn to read from comics. I mean,
right.
It's true. I mean, comics are special for a lot of different reasons. I mean, like you just said, that was your first comic, and you still pick it up every now and again when you see it. It's something that comics are special at the end of the day. I mean, they've I don't know. I mean, I've loved them since the moment I discovered them in an attic at my grandmother's house. My uncle had just stashed away his comics when he moved out, and discovering them, early on, that those were the first things I remember reading, and I've loved them ever since.
One thing I haven't mentioned, and sadly I don't have much in the way of art from this type of comic, but as I said, I got comics in dribs and drabs, some at grocery store trips, some for treats, some in my Christmas stocking. But my next door neighbor, George Fisher in Macon, gave me a stack of Sergeant Rock and GI Combat comics. So I discovered war comics through him. Mm-hmm. And like I said, unfortunately, I don't have much in the way of art from those. I have a few Sergeant Rock pieces. I almost, for those of you who followed the Comic Connect auction, I almost bid on that DC Comics Presents Superman and Sergeant Rock, but I passed on it because I wanted something else more. But yeah, those also are special to me as well. That particular group,
the genre of comics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've always I don't know. I've read a few things, but I love the artwork. I love Russ Heath, Joe Kubert.
Oh yeah.
And I haven't gotten. I don't think do I own any war artwork. I don't believe I do. But I I didn't read it, but I love the strips from it, and I think that there was a piece we featured recently too. It was like a trenches piece. I can't even remember who the artist was, but again, it's just the work is so visceral, and when you know kind of the history behind it, and some of the artists who are actually in wars and whatnot, you know that they're really like Kirby, right, drawing from experience and in ways, and I think that knowing creators' histories and their ties to some of those stories make them all the more interesting. So
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, but I definitely will get. Qbert has been on my list for a while. I set aside a piece at Berkey's house. I might try to pick it up when I'm up in Ohio. Russ Heath, I've not seen anything that I've wanted to get, but I mean, I will one day. I know I will.
Yeah, he's unbelievably good.
So how did the pet side of things work their way into your collecting?
Well,
hobby here, because it just because again you go by the handle Super Pet Rescue at CAF, and I think it's always been that way, right?
Most of the time. I think when I first started, I think I was Shannon Weathers, and then I think I was Super Pet Rescue Shannon W or something. But yes, for the most part, I've been Super Pet Rescue. Well, Krypto was my gateway dog, if you will, and then it kind of spread to the other super pets and then to other superpowered animals. There's a whole gallery on a whole room on my CAF gallery called Animal Kingdom, which is nothing but random different artists drawing animals. For example, John Byrne drawing a gorilla, inked by Jerry Ordway. I'm sure lots of other people bought that because it was a Doom Patrol page, and I bought it because it was Jerry Ordway and John Byrne drawing a gorilla. So Krypto was someone I discovered, or a dog I discovered in one of my Christmas stocking comics. There's a famous Superman cover. It's "Stop It, Superman, You're Wrecking the World." Now, the Krypto story has nothing to do with that, but that's the story where I believe I discovered Krypto the Super Dog. And that's in the assortment tonight. I was lucky enough to eventually get that entire story, the entire Krypto story. I bought most of the pages from Edward Boren, probably 12 years ago. And early this year, I bought the last page 5, the only page I didn't have, from Dwayne Dush, who is, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, who has a CAF gallery, and was gracious enough to sell it to me and complete it. But I always loved Krypto. I love the stories where he acts like a dog. In fact, in that story, Mr. Mixelpick tries to escape from him by turning into a dog biscuit. So Krypto decides to eat all the dog biscuits in the factory. And eventually, of course, Mixelpick says his name backwards and escapes. There are other stories where, and that one's sort of a combo. Krypto, that's Mixelpick, trying to trick Krypto. And that's the way this whole story, essentially, until Krypto ultimately gets the better of him. I like the stories where he behaves like a dog. This is sort of a combo story. He both behaves like a dog and has complete human intelligence and human word balloons throughout the entire story. And Krypto was a prominent feature in Superman Family. So when I would get those grocery store comics, I followed his adventures. And in fact, when I first started buying pages, what jump-started my pet collection was someone had 12 Superman Family Krypto pages for $200 on eBay. Buy it now.
There's a lot of wow.
Yes, that's right.
That's hard to imagine, but I mean, maybe they felt like that they weren't desirable, so they put them together as a lot versus doing them separate.
I honestly don't know. In fact, I want to say there was not even any postage on it. It was a really incredible deal, and wow. that was the first time I had pages of anything in quantity. But yes, and those were all it was basically 3 portions of 3 different stories, all of which that I had read over the years. Because Krypto was, one of my mainstays. And then through Krypto, I discovered, Streaky and Comet, Beppo the monkey. And then, and from then on, I was pretty much hooked on super animals. I've gone through many phases in my collecting, both when it comes to comics and art. I have a Hawkman phase, I have a Wonder Woman phase, but the Krypto phase has been continuous throughout my collecting. And the fact that I, as those of you who know me know, I'm so very much tied to my own pets. It just it's just a natural thing for me to love the super pets as well.
So what was it like getting that whole the whole story? I mean, did you, I think you said you bought some in bulk or together, but that's a challenge. I mean, a lot of collectors try to do that and fail.
Well, it's a lot easier when there's only 6, right?
I know, but even then, I mean, we had Brucci talk about just completing like those 8-page stories from DC, and things that he'd look for forever to find like that last page, and it's not easy. Whether it's 6 or 8 or 22, it's still difficult.
No, it is, and I actually have at least one more full Krypto story too, which is I believe a backup. It's not Kurt Swan like this one. It's a backup story in New Adventures of Superboy, and I think it's 6 pages also, and I bought it from 4 different dealers over the years, and and in fact, when I completed it, I did, unlike this Swan Krypto where I always knew Dwayne had that one and I always wanted it, and I for those of you out there that worry about pestering people, I only contacted him once every year or so. And I always said no pressure, but with the other one I completed, I suddenly, when I bought the last page, I suddenly realized, wow, this is the last page of this story. And it wasn't anything I really set out to do. It just kind of happened over time. I mean, if you know me, you know that if I see a Krypto out there, most likely I'm going to try for it. Not always, but most likely I am. And then I just completed it. But no, as far as the Swan one especially, it was a great feeling to get it because it's such an important story for me because it's my introduction to Krypto. It was in my Christmas stocking. It was one of my comics I literally read by the light of a Christmas tree in my parents' house as a child. And to have that story means a lot to me. I mean, I would say that and the Batman 272 pages are, well, and the Swamp Thing sketch, I could go down the list, but those are probably my most important things in my collection.
Now, did you frame those or did you keep them in a portfolio so it's easier to kind of look at that as a complete story?
They are in a portfolio.
Yeah. I would have thought the same thing. It's right. If you have a complete story, it's better to be able to flip through it and see it that way versus trying to find a great way to organize 6 pieces in a row.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So are there, I'm not familiar with the super pet side of things. I hate to say that, but I mean, are there stories out there that you've looked for that you've not been able to find any artwork from, or do you feel like you've seen most important stories that are out there?
No, there are lots of stories that, like, for example, I've never seen a page of an interior page, for that matter, of when the Legion of Super Pets appeared together as a group back in the 60s. I've never found one of those. And by that, I mean, like I said about the other page, I've never seen them for sale, period. Right. I've never seen a Beppo the Super Monkey page from the 60s ever. Comet, I have a handful. In fact, I have most of the ones I have seen. There are some that are way outside my price range that are much, much earlier with Supergirl. And Streaky, it is.
It's mentioned too, Supergirl pages.
That's right. I actually, when I went to that art show in New Jersey back in April, I saw a couple of those. I think Comic Connect had them, or Gary Land. And Streaky pages, there are plenty of Streaky stories I don't have a page from. There's a famous Super Pets cover where, I don't remember the issue, but it's Supergirl and Superman I think it's Supergirl and Superman, maybe Supergirl and Superboy, but they're both urging on their respective pet in a tug of war. And on that cover, Streaky the Super Cat looks almost as large as Krypto the Super Dog. I've never seen any pages from that story ever. So no, there are plenty of super pet pages that I've never come across anything from.
Well, you'd like to think they're out there, but I assume you probably have keywords set up with all the auction houses and eBay and on CAF, just with the hope that something will come up at some point.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And West said his dog's name is Krypto as well.
I knew there was a reason why I liked you, West.
And Mark wanted to know, what did you think of the Super Pets animated feature?
I am ashamed to say, Mark, I have not seen the. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, the most recent movie. Yes, I'm sorry. I don't ever think of this modern animation as real animation. I actually loved it. I really enjoyed it. I especially like the ending that has a. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but a pet we've never seen before. So.
Well, you're going to make me have to watch. I thought about watching it, but I've kind of passed it over when I'm browsing things to watch, but now I want to know what this is at the end. So, but now, do you have pets as well? I mean, is that part of?
Yes.
And did you grow up with pets?
Yes, I did. We had dogs as when I was a kid, and we had cats. We were more of a cat-oriented family than a dog-oriented family. And when my wife and I first got married, we had her two cats. And then we have had a menagerie, or as my wife says, a zoo over the years, but we have 2 dogs now. In fact, one of them was in my photo for this, dressed as good-naturedly, only for a few seconds, dressed as Krypto the Super Dog for this event. And that's Birdie. He's a tricolor Japanese chin we got from Japanese Chin Care and Rescue, which is where our last 3 dogs have come from. Yeah. Which is one of the rescues I work with the most.
I'll try to dig that up. I don't know if anybody saw that when we made the PR push, but there you go. Yeah, I was going to ask you. I assume that was not regular dress for the dog.
No. And he I wouldn't say he's particularly tolerant, but he's more tolerant than my little one, Emmett, who's a brown and white Japanese chin, and he is not tolerant at all of clothing or costumes. I dressed him as a mad scientist once, and it did not go over well with him.
For Halloween?
Yes, for Halloween.
Oh boy,
that was only against also.
Yeah, I haven't had a dog in a long time, so it's we've always had cats, and you can't dress cats up. So, as you know, but
well, actually, yes, one of my
tried?
Cats. Go ahead.
I said you've tried.
Well, Nelson, who was my beloved Maine Coon, he was a rescue my wife adopted while I was out of town in Baltimore one year with my blessing, and he made it in the art room once because it was forbidden fruit, and he actually, he landed on a Jim Mooney prelim. I'll just say that.
That's what Mark was just asking. Are your pets allowed in the art room?
They are not. Birdie was briefly in here when my wife was helping me set the room up, but no, they are not allowed to be in the room at all. And Nelson could have done way more damage to the Mooney prelim than he did, but he did do a little by landing on it. But it was my fault for letting him in the room.
Well, it just has to happen once, and
right, vigilance.
Yeah, I know. I look around the office here. I mean, I don't know what I'd do because I've got a few portfolios that are leaning against the wall. If I had a dog, I know I'd be in trouble if it was able to get into here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think I've heard a story once about somebody whose dog, I think it was tore up a package. Marcus would probably remember. I think there was a story of somebody who had gotten a package in the mail. It sat on their porch for a day, and a dog tore it up. Something along those lines. I can't remember what the particulars were, but pets will get you. That is for sure in this hobby. You got to look out for them. It was an ASM 8. All right. Yeah, I remember I knew there was something out there. But yeah, what are you gonna do? A Ditko. Yeah, that's got to be about the worst thing that could ever happen, right? Oh boy, yeah. So I knew that was out there. But so Shannon, I mean, as far as like meeting people in the hobby, clearly you were young enough at the time when you were getting the sketches and maybe the first few published pages. You didn't know. I'm assuming you weren't friends with anybody else who was collecting original art, maybe comics, but. I mean, when did your circle of friends kind of open up to meeting other art collectors?
Well, the very first page I bought was, and this was, I guess, in the 80s, right after Wayne Vansant started drawing the Nom.
Mm-hmm.
His first story was about a Kit Carson scout, a Vietnamese guide for the American soldiers. And Kevin Yee, my friend that I mentioned from high school, and I were at a random con in North Carolina, and he said, Wayne Vansant from the Nom is over there selling pages at a really, really low price. I don't remember what it was, but it was very low. And I think Kevin bought an airplane page, and then I bought a page that appealed to me a lot, where the scout is killing one of his French tormentors. From the first part of the Vietnam War, and he says, like war, I too will have no mercy. And that was the first page I bought in, like I said, I think in the late 80s. And then I didn't buy another page again until the early 2000s. But as far as expanding my my social circle with other art collectors, I guess it started with getting involved in CAF. Craig Hamilton, who is also from Macon, the Aquaman artist. I don't remember. I want to say I was buying a Lucifer page or Lucifer sketch from him. And he said, do you have a CAF gallery? And I said, no, I don't. I've looked at it. He said, oh, you have to have a gallery to show your artwork. And then, and you'll sadly, I've heard you talk about this with other people before as well, Bill. If you go back and look at some of my early posts, I mean, they were shot with some either very low grade digital camera or either my low grade camera phone.
Right.
In fact, some of my Andy Lee paintings still have those. I right in anticipation of this show, I started replacing them, and I've replaced 4 with actual proper scans. But through CAF, I was a big Milestone Comics fan. So I found a fellow on eBay who had lots of Milestone comic art. In fact, I had to convince him, he was not an art dealer at all, that no, please don't write my name and address on the back of a page when you mail me a page. So as I started posting those, Damon Owens reached out to me and told me how much he was enjoying those pages. And then I discovered his commission series, The Brotherhood. And I struck up a correspondence with Damon, and he became a good friend. And he helped me. He was my intro to a number of different artists like Val Meeks, Ian Richardson over in England, and Mike Leakey, all of which I followed the trail that Damon blazed, and he would get commissions from them. He has lots of commissions of Val. And then I started shadowing him, getting commissions of the Super Pets. I have another person I met through CAF, you all know as AK, my friend Anand Kandaswamy. And the way we met, he was gracious enough to note on a Facebook page that Paul Smith had just listed some sketches. And that's before I realized that Paul Smith does what he does, which is he lists a handful of sketches every so often. And of course, they're gone in seconds. And if Anand had not posted that, I would not have gotten a Paul Smith piece. And then he and I became friends after that. And that's just 2 examples of people I've befriended through CAF. My crowd here in Atlanta, or I guess some of them have dispersed, but Ben Murray and Ha and Brian Methot all are art collectors as well. So I don't know if any of them have CAF galleries, to be honest, but those are some of my art collecting friends. as well as our great late friend Oz Portillo, who was one of my great cheerleaders when it came to, sure, you can spend that on that piece. So yeah, art definitely built bridges to lots of good and lasting friendships.
That's nice to hear too. I've heard from a number of collectors who've started friendships with that kind of same introduction, where somebody just reaches out and says, I like the artwork you're posting in your CAF, you know, and they're not even necessarily, you're not collecting necessarily the same thing that they are, but they appreciate it. And they see you posting, and they were encouraging, right? I mean, and I think that's one of the greatest things about CAF is that I think we as collectors enjoy looking at a lot of art that maybe we wouldn't collect ourselves. And when you see somebody new, or somebody who's got a good eye and is putting great artwork in their CAF gallery, and you just drop them a line letting them know that, I mean, that's encouraging for them to continue to post similar artworks or more artwork from their CAF gallery and into their CAF gallery. And I didn't know a lot of that stuff was going on, you know, for the longest time, but it's so great to hear it now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so CAF has done a few good things out there. So that's and Anand says it was great to see you in Baltimore. There, and try one of Sharon's delicious cupcakes. Yeah, she did bring some, didn't she? But yeah, that's Baltimore was a fun show this year. I had never been to Baltimore. I did enjoy that. So I would assume most times when you're meeting up with other collectors, it's at cons.
Most of the time, yes. I mean, I talked to Anand and Christopher and George Castine and Damon way more than I ever see them in person. But yes, that is where I usually meet up with people, or at cons. And actually, there's some friends of mine from Atlanta that I see them in Charlotte way more than I ever see them in Atlanta, which is not a bit true.
Yeah, you know, I don't think I hear of any like original art meetups in Atlanta. You'd think that it's got to be a lot of collectors there. And
well, Benno Rothschild.
Benno has his, right? I mean, right. He does that annually. Have you been to those?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. In fact, I met Benno because I was at Tom Feaster's table at a toy show, and I was talking about Krypto, shockingly. And Benno said, so do you have any Kurt Swan Krypto? And I said, well, yeah, I have a few Kurt Swan Krypto pages. And then he said, well, I'm Benno Rothschild and I have an art brunch. And he invited me to his brunch, and I've been going ever since. So yeah, they're great. They really are. And some of the local artists, like my friends June Brigman and Roy Richardson, come to Benno's show as well. So as well as some of the art reps. So it's a good time.
Yeah, I don't know why I forget that Benno's in Atlanta, but yeah, he's been doing that for quite some time, and he is a great statesman for the hobby. That's for sure. He's got his collection's amazing. I'm sure when you get to see stuff in person, he's I've always been amazed by his collection.
Oh yeah, it really it's incredible. I'll just say this: I was at when I went to his house for the first time. I always worry about losing my art portfolio, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, I will share, some of you know this already. My wife, who's watching, certainly knows this. In New York back in 2019, I left my portfolio in a yellow cab, got out at Penn Station, and then only realized when I was at the ticket machine, I don't have my portfolio. But amazingly, her cousin, within 10 minutes, made a claim with the taxi commissioner. The next day, someone from the taxi commissioner's office called me up. And because I knew the exact fare and the location where the person picked me up, she tracked it down to 2 cabs. And an hour and a half later, I had my portfolio. Of course, I had to pay the guy a considerable amount of money to drive it to Long Island, but that was okay. I was able to get it back. But in any event, I'm always very leery about leaving my portfolio behind. And at Benno's at Art Brunch, I said that to one of the other collectors, and he said, I have $500,000 worth of art in my case. You'll be fine. So, and he actually had a penciled Norman Rockwell drawing. So he was definitely in a class way, way above me. But always a good time at that event.
But was his case, cuffed to his wrist?
It was not. He left it there just like everyone else did, and went and ate breakfast or brunch. So.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not in that level of collecting either, but I I've heard horror stories of people going up to the rental car stand, leaning the portfolio in front of them while they're filling out the paperwork and leaving, and then it's gone. I mean, yeah, carrying portfolios around can be a very dangerous thing.
Well,
Unfortunately,
I have an Apple tracker in mine now, but I did test it at Heroes Con, and then when I tested it, my phone said, your portfolio was last seen at the Charlotte Convention Center. Of course, it was in my lap, but I thought, yeah, this is a little bit less exact than I was hoping for. Narrowing it down to the entire convention center was not particularly helpful. And I see
that is interesting. That's something that's never come up before, Shannon. Putting some kind of a chip into a portfolio when you're on the road. I mean, that's actually a really good idea. I mean, I don't think in the 2.5 years we've been doing these that anybody even suggested that they've ever done that. That's a wonderful idea. I mean, even though it's not maybe a little imperfect, like you just mentioned, that's I think it makes me want to go out and try it. Try to try it myself.
Well, my wife suggested it, and every morning when I go to work, I get a note on my phone saying your portfolio was left behind, and it gives my home address. So, but yes, I definitely. I mean, like you said, it is inexact, or I said it's inexact, but I think it's worth trying anyway. I definitely don't want to lose it again. It was too heartrending.
Oh, I can't even imagine what you went through. I mean, that's
well, as long as I got it back, and thanks to my wife and her cousin, I got it back. And now I'm way, way more careful than that. Of course, I thought I was careful prior to that, but all it takes is not paying attention for 30 seconds or even 5 seconds, really.
Right. I mean, similar things have happened to shows too. I mean, I've heard of other people just setting their portfolios down, or especially the smaller Itoyas or whatnot, when they're at a table talking with somebody, they walk away. And then, Mickey's watching. Hey, Mickey. Mickey says, I once left my portfolio at the gate when I boarded a plane. A helpful airline attendant retrieved it for me. Yeah, I mean, you just never know. But I like the chip idea though. I think I'm going to go out. I've never had one before, but I think I'm going to pick one up just as a test.
Oh yeah, let me know how it goes.
I will. And Dave Rash mentioned that it was nice to meet you in Baltimore this year as well.
It's good to meet you as well, Dave.
So you want to start looking at some artwork? You've given me a few pieces here to go through.
That sounds great. Sure.
We've talked about a few of these pieces already. We already looked at the Garcia Lopez, and so we're going to switch right over to this Rizzo. And these were done in alphabetical order. I probably might have been better to have this in the middle since there's no pets on this one.
No. This is, however, my favorite page from 100 Bullets. As I said, I'm a sentimental fellow. My wife and I and my parents went to Alaska on a cruise back in 2010. Before we started on the cruise, we were in Seattle for a few days, and I don't know if there still is, but there was a great used bookstore at the Pike's Fish Market where I discovered 100 Bullets. And I essentially bought half of the trade collection before the cruise. And then when we came back, I bought the rest of the trade collection. But this was my favorite sequence in the entire series. And when I saw Nicholas Rizzo, the artist's son, listing pages, I contacted him and asked him if this one was still available. And it was, and I couldn't resist it. I bought it. I guess I bought this in either 20 or 2021. But essentially, Wiley is my favorite of the Minutemen, who are the stars of 100 Bullets. And sadly, the musician Gabe has gotten maimed, unfortunately, by a bear trap, and grabs Wiley's gun and tries to kill himself, but he can't. And so Wiley, and he wants Wiley to kill him. And Wiley tells him he wants him to think about, basically his perfect place, almost his idea of heaven. And Gabe imagines his muse, I think her name is April, with him. And then, you see what Wiley's going to do, sadly. But it is my favorite sequence in 100 Bullets. I feel like it combines such anguish and hope at the same time.
Yeah, I've only read a few books from the series, unfortunately, but I love Rizzo's work, and that's interesting that you reached out to Nicholas too, and that you're able to work that out. I know that he's been using CAF for about 3 or 4 years, I think, to post, because he's a rep now. I think he reps a few other artists as well.
Mhm.
But that's great. I mean, we always talk about it's wise to reach out and ask, because you never know what pieces an artist or their rep may be able to get a hold of that maybe isn't listed on their website, or like in this case in his CAF gallery where he's listing things. And it pays to reach out sometimes, and so that worked out great for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. We had a handful of pages around the same storyline, maybe not the same issue. So I thought it was worth a shot, and he was very responsive. I mean, within a day or two, he got back to me and said he still had it.
Well, that's great. I mean, you've along with, say, getting a page from the Garcia Lopez book, I mean, you've been pretty fortunate to pick up pieces that are special to you, and I think
yeah, absolutely. I've been very, very fortunate in that regard.
Yeah, so nostalgia is a bit of a driver. I mean, and appreciation of good storytelling too, as far as selecting the artworks. So this next piece, though, the Brian Bolland Spectre prelim, this is pretty cool. I love Bolland's prelims.
Me too. I've always wanted a Bolland piece. That was another a much more minor missed opportunity, but a few years back, I set up with my friend Oz and our friend Mike as dealers at Heroes Con, and I was just selling toys and a few comics, and I made myself not go buy art until I sold a certain point, and I never made it to Bolland's table because I thought I wouldn't be able to afford anything anyway. And I didn't realize, well, that'll be the only time I have an opportunity to see him in the States. I mean, probably there were others. In fact, there were, but I wasn't collecting art at that point. I was just getting autographs. But what happened with this, Joseph Melchior listed an Animal Man prelim cover with a dog on it, which of course I wanted, and unfortunately I think I logged in about 17 minutes after he listed it, so it was already gone. And I asked him if he had any more animal pieces by Bolland. I would definitely be interested. And he said, well, he thought he had a wolf wearing clothes, but he'd have to get back to me. And sometimes that just doesn't work out. Sometimes the dealer or the rep forgets, or he can't find whatever it was he was talking about. Well, this particular time he did find it, and it's a wolf. I guess he's in a sweater. It's on my CAF gallery, smoking a cigarette. And after I got that one, he said, well, I have some other DC art if you might be interested. And he showed me this one, and I had to have it. I'm a huge fan of Brian Bolland's work. I'm also a huge fan of Tom Mandrake's art on Spectre. This looks like it would have been a prelim of that Spectre series, and Bolland did do at least one Spectre cover, but this is not a prelim of that piece. So if this ever became a published piece, I don't know what it was. I don't know if this was just a rejected concept, but this also reminds me of that Swamp Thing Annual #2 I mentioned, where Down Amongst the Dead Men, when Swamp Thing encounters the Spectre like this in a full page splash of the Spectre's face. And that was another reason that made this a draw for me. And I love the teeth too. I can't, I don't know why, but he did such a great job on this grimace. It's something else that made this piece really stand out to me.
Yeah, no, that's great. And Melchior is, he's got a never-ending supply, it seems, of a prelim here or there. It's like whenever he updates his website, there's at least one more Bolland prelim. So
that's exactly right. In fact, last time he updated it, I bought, instead of a Bolland prelim, I bought a Buckingham Fables with the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, or one of the rabbits from Alice in Wonderland, and the Badger, who's one of the supporting characters in Fables.
Yeah, no, I'm very attentive when Joseph updates his website. I love Frank Whiteley's work too, and so yeah, but that and Bolland and Gibbons, you just never know what he's going to be showing, and he usually pulls out, or half the update tends to be stuff that he likes, and I tend to like pretty much everything that he likes as well. So there's always something of interest in there, even if I'm not going to buy it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Let's see here. Oh, here we go.
So I am a huge Dick Dillon fan. Dick Dillon was my Justice League artist. If some of you may remember, he died during the New Gods JLA JSA crossover, and that's when George Perez became the artist on the book. I actually flew to New Jersey in order to get this piece. This was in April of this year. That and going to see Daniel Craig and Macbeth, but I knew that Bob Stevenson was going to have Dick Dillon pages, and I am a big fan of the JLA JSA crossovers from that era. As a child, I never really collected Justice League, but every year I would buy the JLA JSA crossover. This one has real appeal for me for a couple of reasons. It has become canon that Hawkman and Green Arrow are always at each other's throats. In this particular page, instead, they seem to be drunk, but they're definitely singing a drinking song. It has Earth 2 characters like the Earth 2 Wonder Woman and Star Spangled Kid, and the interaction between Huntress, Helena Wayne, and Batman. And then you also have Batman wistfully thinking about Silver St. Cloud from the Marshall Rogers run on Batman back in the 70s. So all of that made this page appealing to me. I've always wanted a Dick Dillon, and now I have 3 Dick Dillon Justice League pages.
Well, you can't stop with just one, can you?
No, you really can't. In fact, I was amazed. I don't want to give myself too much credit, but I could have bought way more than I bought at that show. So the other page I bought was a sentimental favorite of mine from this same group of pages from Bob, where Snapper Carr is revealed to be the villain Starzar, which was my very first, the first Justice League story I remember reading. And Dick Dillon was the artist on that as well.
Wow. So have you, how many of the art cons have you visited?
That one up in New Jersey, I've only done the one.
Done the one time? I haven't been to it in a while. Probably like 8 years or so, but it was always a good time. And I know that that you always get a good set of dealers going to it.
Yeah, it's really an incredible show. I mean, I met dealers that I have bought from over the years that I'd never seen in person. I mean, of course, there's some that I knew that I had seen, like Jim Warden. Yeah. In fact, I bought a pogo from Jim at that show. In fact, the best pogo I've ever had, I got from Jim at that show, and that was sort of an impulse buy towards the end. I was there for the Dillons, and then I saw the pogo, and what are you going to do? So
right. Daily or Sunday?
It was a daily, but it was a daily that was a large 2-panel daily. Mm-hmm. And it also, this is on my CAF gallery as well. On the reverse side, there is some pencil drawing of some other strip that's not a pogo strip that Walt Kelly drew on the other side. So that was really nice to get.
Wow.
It is my first pogo strip that actually has pogo on it. I've gotten a couple that with no pogo.
Before, I was going to say, how many before that did you have that didn't have pogo on it?
I have a total of 4 now. I bought one on eBay a few months ago, and then I have I bought 2 that were actually listed. The first 2 I bought were listed on CAF. I can't remember. I'm not as up on pogo as I am on the Super Pets, but the one I bought most recently has pogo and Albert, and then the first 2 have I think his name is Churchy LaFemme. He's a turtle, and his uncle, and then that same uncle, which is sort of a braggart, and this police dog character. Those I only have 4 pogo strips, but well,
not bad. Marcus wanted to know if you had any interest in a Golden Age funny animal art.
I do. In fact, Marcus, if you look on my gallery, I have some Rags Rabbit. And I think Rags was published by Harvey. But I do like Golden Age. I like all funny animal art, really, but unless it's some sort of, no offense to those who love him, like Mark Millar unfunnies type of satirical funny animal art. I don't really like that, but generally speaking, I do like all funny animal, all eras, including Golden Age.
Very good. Let's see here. This is one of the few color pieces that you sent me.
So this is penciled by Matt Wagner penciled by Tim Sale and painted by Matt Wagner. And it's the cover of one of the issues of The Devil Child, which was written by Diana Schultz, I believe, who was the longtime editor of Grendel. And this focuses on Stacy, the child that is caught between the evil Hunter Rose and the good but totally brutal wolf-like Argent. And then, of course, the cat has a Grendel eye on it. I bought this at New York Comic Con that same year that I lost my portfolio in the car, in the cab, and I got it from Jim Warden. This is one of those that the first time I saw it, I let it get away. I bought something different. In fact, I bought another Grendel cover from Jim and Matt Wagner at the time, from the Brian Lee Sung version of Grendel, where he's asleep sewing his mask. But so the draw for this was it's both Wagner and Sale, and of course it has the cat with the Grendel eye. I was a huge Grendel fan back in college.
Yeah, it's a fantastic image, and two guys who you're not going to see too many pieces that they've worked on together. I mean, this is very rare, and you can tell it's a Sale layout, and you can tell it's Wagner colors, right? And just the sensibility of both of them works so well together in this piece.
Yeah, I really, really like it, and it fits the story so well as well. I mean, the haunted look on her face, and it's definitely a Sale face, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, no, without question. Yeah. Let's see here. Mark wanted to know. Let me highlight this one for you. Do you have any Bloom County or Meadows?
Mark, I really, really wish I did. I, however, do not. That would be really nice to have. I mean, Bloom County, I've just never come across any affordable Bloom County art. I'm not even sure if I've come across any Bloom County art. In Liberty Meadows, I never see anything. I mean, occasionally I see Frank Cho, but it isn't usually his animal stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's holding on to a lot of that. But I think the Bloom County stuff comes up rarely. I mean, it does, but not very often.
Right.
Let's see here. I think we were talking about this piece a little bit earlier.
Yes, this is my friend Wayne Vincent. And actually, if you ever see Wayne at a show, usually I'm going to be helping him at his table if I can, especially if it's in Charlotte or Atlanta. But this is before he and I even knew each other. But this is from his first story on the Nom. And actually, it's framed on my wall as well, which, unfortunately, the weathered look may be from it being framed for so long.
When did you buy this one?
Oh, I bought it in the late 80s. I mean, it had only been out for a few months when I bought it.
Okay. Oh, that's right. You said it was late. It was like 88, 89. Okay.
Yeah, something like that. I think it's Nom number 7. I'm not positive of that, but I think that's right. Oh. And that's, like I said, the Kit Carson Scout. He's one of my favorite characters in the Nom.
Yeah, that's a nice page. I love those first two panels with the tank.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, Wayne is perfect when it comes to drawing tanks and planes and all sorts of weaponry. If you're not familiar with it, I urge y'all to check out Katusha, which is his passion project about a Ukrainian girl that becomes a tank commander in the Russian army during World War II.
Oh, that's interesting. So you help him out at shows?
I do, and by help him out, I don't help him much. I help him get set up, and I help him carry stuff to the car, and then I watch his table when he needs a break as well. But yeah, we have Pre-pandemic, we went to Heroes together quite a bit, and then we went this year as well.
Got it. Well, that's a nice pickup there. And Marcus is confirming that Frank Cho doesn't sell those.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
I think he's shown photographs on Facebook of like stacks of Liberty Meadows pieces and he's mentioned that he's not letting go of those. Just like most or many of his interiors, of course. Let's see here. What was the next piece? That was this one here.
So this is another an example of me shadowing my friend Damon Owens of the Brotherhood. He, in fact, Damon had a Brotherhood piece that was based on a similar cover from Brad Meltzer was the writer. I don't remember who the artists were on Justice League, where Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are picking among heroes or photographs of heroes. This piece by Ian Richardson and it's inked by Chris Ivey is based on All-Star Squadron #1 by Rich Buckler, where the Super Pets are essentially looking at photographs of other pets to decide who they're going to invite. And then Beppo has Proty-2 in his hand, which is the only actual new member of the Super Pets that ever actually happened in the 60s. And you see some of the people included or animals included are not really pets, like Hoppy the Marvel Bunny, who's another favorite of mine. But I have Itty, who's the starfish character from Green Lantern, as well as Detective Chimp, Rex. Diablo, who is actually I don't remember the horse's name. It's El Diablo's horse. Matthew the Raven from Sandman. You get the picture. I'm not going to name everybody, but I even have Alan Scott's dog, Streak the Wonder Dog, and Ian was nice enough to do all these miniature portraits, and Ian is just a joy to work with. Recently, he did in the last couple of years did what I call Into the Kryptoverse for me, with multiple versions of Krypto set at the Kent farm. He's always up for a massive piece with lots of characters.
Yeah, I love this image. When I saw it, I'm glad that you picked it, because I was going through your CAF gallery just seeing what stuff you had. But this is such a fun image here, and no, this is great.
Thank you. And Chris Ivey also did a digital color version, which is also on my gallery.
Oh, nice. Let's see. Oh, just about the prior piece, Peter Rose said that he also likes Wayne's work. He has some of the Korean War pages, and he has a Katusha panel page too.
Peter, I was a history major, and I've told Wayne this. I felt like I learned more about the Korean War in his book about the Korean War than I did in any history class in college. I mean, if we covered Korea at all, it was probably 50 minutes or half of a 50-minute class. So right. Yeah, Wayne is really really detailed and as Peter said, a super nice guy as well.
Let's see here.
So this is by Kurt Swan, one of my all-time favorite artists. Mm-hmm. And this is Comet the Superhorse, the ladies' man that he was, romancing Lois Lane in his human form. And it features one of my favorite lines of dialogue where Lois essentially says something to the effect of, she knows he's Superhorse, but in his human form, he really turns her on. And this, I believe this was owned by Evan Dorkin, although I didn't buy it directly from Evan. I guess he sold it on eBay. This is one of my second chance pieces. I picked it up on Heritage several years after I missed it on eBay. And I have two other pages from this story in my gallery where Lois is turned into a white horse with a black mane, and she's flying around with Comet the Superhorse rescuing Superman.
Yeah, this is why, I always go back to, this is why I didn't read DC. It was just so crazy sometimes, I mean, the stories, they weren't grounded enough in reality for me or something.
No, definitely that one is not grounded in reality.
but they always make me laugh when I see them. You know, it's because they were always fighting an odd character that shouldn't. But and it always had a title about, you know, the end of the world, or, you know, whether it was is Superman going to end the world, or is this hero, if he does do this, going to end the world. And it would always, and half the time, whatever they were doing, or, you know, whomever they were battling against, or whatever it was they were battling against, was always something odd. And then they would throw in a story like that.
Well, Mark asked, is he the only one that finds it disturbing? No, I don't think you are, Mark. In fact, if you Google creepy comic characters, Comet usually pops up. I've seen him on more than one list. I'll just say that. At least with this one, though, Lois knew he was Super Horse when he dated Supergirl in his human form. She did not know she was dating Super Horse.
Oh boy. You know, we do those dramatic readings on the CAF update, and Rick says that would be a great dramatic reading.
Rick, yeah. I would leave that to you. I would love to hear you do it then.
I would too. Rick, the challenge has been put out for you. Give it a try. Oh boy. But yeah, no, that very interesting. I mean, I love Swan. I got my first Kurt Swan Superman page back in August. So, you know, I've been looking for the right page for a long time, and I'm still looking for good ones. I mean, there's so many out there, and he's still so affordable, you know, compared to contemporaries of his time. I mean, I think Swan artwork is, you know, some of the most affordable from that era that is out there. And he's one of my favorite artists, you know, ever on Superman. He just drew him so well. So, yeah, that's an interesting one. And switching over to Don Newton here.
So this is the very first page featuring Chip the Green Lantern. I know that there are different camps that prefer Hal or Kyle or John or Alan, but Chip will always be my favorite Green Lantern. And he was later reinvented in Green Lantern Corps by Joe Staton as a much more cartoony, funny animal looking character. And I love those too. In fact, I just picked up one of those on Comic Connect. But I actually have Chip's, I don't have Chip's death where he gets hit by the yellow truck, but I do have the page where John is standing over his body. So essentially I have Chip's first page and last page, at least non like Tiny Titans, mainline DC Universe continuity. And I was really shocked to discover Don Newton was his co-creator. I've always wanted a Don Newton page, but I always thought it would be a Batman page, not a Chip page.
Right. I mean, I would not have guessed. And and then to a Perez, which, I mean, you can't go wrong getting something like this of this similar quality. And now, is this something that was a commission?
It was
through Spencer, or
no? Actually, it was through George directly.
Wow.
He basically, right after Dragon Con, which is here in Atlanta, he I want to say it's like 2013 or so, maybe it was 2012, but in any event, he opened a list like a few days after Dragon Con for next year's Dragon Con, and I jumped on it immediately. And I have a color guide, another one from Tatjana Wood on my gallery from one of Perez's Who's Who covers. I think it was K through L. And it had the Legion of Super Pets. And of course it had Krypto, but it also had Lilith. And when during a run of Teen Titans that Perez did not draw, Garcia Lopez drew some of it, and I want to say Barreto drew some of it. Lilith became like a sun goddess character. But on the back of that Who's Who cover, Lilith is in her sun goddess mode holding Streaky the Super Cat. And that image had always resonated with me. And so thanks, Aranga. And so when I had this opportunity, I asked George if he would draw Lilith as the sun goddess with Streaky. And he did. So initially I started out, he had different tiers, and I started with the lowest one. And then I thought, when am I ever going to get this opportunity again? So I made it a full figure and pencil tones, and, you know, I basically whatever I could get from George, I got. So this is one of my favorite pieces, and definitely one of my favorite commissions.
Yeah. I mean, these like you were saying, George had a lot of different tiers. Sometimes they were just, quick marker sketches or maybe full figure. But when he was doing this quality, they're always just gorgeous. I mean, he's so amazing. But when he had the time to make something like this, I mean, my gosh, he knocked every one of them out of the park. And this is just simply gorgeous. I love it.
Thank you. It's one of my favorites.
Is that one on the wall or in a portfolio?
Oh, no, it's in a portfolio.
Yep.
So this is towards the end. This is Rick. Is it Beach? I never know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, Beach.
And this is from the Alan Moore, towards the end of the Alan Moore storyline, when Swamp Thing has been killed, but not really. And he's come back to Earth to avenge himself upon the people that killed him. And the head of this government agency has killed all the plants, and he's hiding basically in a bunker when on the page preceding this, he realizes he has just eaten a piece of tomato on his sandwich, and Swamp Thing comes out of the tomato, forms this tree, ripping him apart. So I bought this from Mike Berkey a few years ago.
And this is a bit of a departure. There's no pets on this one.
No pets, but I've always been a huge Alan Moore Swamp Thing fan. So no, I don't have any pets on my Swamp Thing pages, but I do love them.
Well, it is a very interesting and well drawn page. I mean, Beach is fantastic. So yeah, this is a good one. Now here we switch back to the pet.
So I mentioned Greg Hildebrandt. Mm-hmm. I discovered him in the Gods and Goddesses portfolio, which I have a copy of somewhere, that was advertised in that old Pacific Comics catalog all those years ago. And eventually, I have a number of Greg Hildebrandt pieces, some prelims, one published, actually two published now. When I've always been interested in his blackboard paintings or drawings. And I contacted his wife, Jean, and commissioned this a few years ago. And I love it. I mean, I love the dog, but I really love the sky and I love the grass. I mean, I think this is one of the best backgrounds of any piece I've ever owned.
Yeah, no, I love Greg's work. I've gotten to see him in person at several shows, and he's a great painter. And so how did you line this one up with him? Did you meet him at a show?
Oh, well, actually, I contacted, I saw they were offering commissions, and I'm on their mailing list, and I contacted Jean, his wife, and pitched it, and he liked the idea, and he within a week or so, he gave me three prelim options, and this is the one I chose. But I mean, Greg Hildebrandt, I mean, you hear horror stories of waiting for commissions forever. He is literally the opposite of that. I mean, at least in my experience. I mean, I bet I had this within 3 weeks, probably.
Wow.
And then I also later commissioned a Comet the Super Horse from him, which is Comet flying in space. And later I got to meet them. I want to say, I guess it was at the New York Comic Con in 2019. And I usually don't fanboy over artists, but I actually got my photograph made with Greg. Jean was nice enough to take the photograph. But they are super nice people, and I really enjoyed working with them.
No, agree. They are. I mean, yeah, I've seen them at several shows, but yeah, Jean's very nice. I mean, I've always had good conversations with them. So yeah, but a 3-week turnaround, that's pretty incredible. I mean, for any artist, really, when you do like that.
Definitely. And it was a nice closing the gap for me too, because I've always wanted. I mean, I have other Hildebrandt pieces, but a Hildebrandt love piece was really special to me. And I did not mention, and I'll just say it really quickly, I rediscovered Greg in the 80s when he was illustrating the Unicorn Press books.
Well, you were mentioning that like some of the first things that you saw were those Hildebrandt print sets. And,
right.
So there was that history as well. I mean, and I was a big Lord of the Rings fan, so
yes,
growing up on Hildebrandt artwork, was special. So finally getting to meet him yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's a cool experience. And all the other, the other work he's done for Marvel, you name it. He's had his hands in a lot of different products that.
Oh yeah,
and
he's
his brother.
great. So this is I'm a huge Black Adam fan as well. I have in my gallery, I'm sure some of you have seen I've got an Alex Ross prelim of Black Adam pummeling what was then Captain Marvel, now Shazam. But this is by Eddie Barrows from 52, and this features the death of Isis. Actually, she dies on the preceding page, which I also have. And I love this page because it shows Black Adam's grieving process from just being consumed with grief to being consumed with rage before his full-blown heel turn, and then his vengeance in the following issue.
Yeah, this is really nice. I love it. Eddie does fantastic work.
Oh, absolutely. This is a page I bought from Mike Berkey. It is my oldest Krypto page. It's only, I want to say it's from 1962. It is from the story where Superboy believes he has discovered another superpowered dog, but it's actually the robot. There's one of those realistic stories you were talking about, Bill, where it's a robot duplicate of Krypto named Spot. Basically, Jor-El shot Krypto in space when he was doing test rockets, what he was going to put his baby son in. Lost Krypto. The baby Kal-El was upset, so Jor-El built him another dog, but there was an accident in the lab, and he burned a spot on his back, and he hoped that Kal-El wouldn't notice. So basically, the robot became the baby's pet. And then, of course, naturally survived the destruction of Krypton as well. So does not survive this story, though, unfortunately. But this is a page I've looked at for years. My friend Aiden Lacey, who I met through CAF as well, encouraged me to get it, and I ultimately did. And Mike, of course, is always great to work with. The stain you see is they repositioned. That is original art under that glue. The stat has fallen off, but they repositioned Superboy. So I think he's in sort of a flying mode as opposed to whatever he is there, hovering in the air. I have another page from that story as well, which actually recaps Krypto's origin and also recaps the creation of Spot. And that's by George Papp.
Oh, nice.
It's the earliest Krypto page I think I've ever seen for sale.
So did you ever think about getting the piece cleaned to get the glue stains removed?
It's funny you asked that. Yes, I have thought about it. I've never thought about doing that with another piece, but yes, I have. And I probably will. It is funny. When I was at that New Jersey art show, I asked a number of the dealers, and they range from Jim Warden, who said, "Oh, I refuse to do anything like that," to others who said, if you're going to keep it for yourself, then clean it. So, but yes, it is something I'm interested in doing if the price were right. Do you ever clean pieces, Bill? Have you ever cleaned one? Or
no, I haven't actually had one that needed restoration yet, but I'm actually looking at buying a piece myself that doesn't have glue stains, but has some rippling in it. Like it must have had some water poured on it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a bit of it's more like a chipboard. So it looks, the photo that I see online looks like I would want to get it fixed. So I didn't, but it's been on this dealer's website for a long time, and I've always avoided it, not wanting to buy it because of the ripple, right? But it's like 3 years down now, and it's still there. They've actually lowered the price a little bit on it. And I'm like, all right, I have to buy it. But if I'm going to buy it, I'm going to get restoration work done on it because I really want it. And but I don't think I'll be happy with the ripple in it.
Right.
Where it's at. It's not in the art, but it's in a spot that just it's right along the edge of the art. I just would have to get it fixed. So yeah, I think I'm going to finally pull the trigger. I was talking with Nick Ferrucci about it a couple nights ago, and he was like, "You dummy, it's not that, and it isn't even a lot of money. It's less than $400." But I've been looking at it for so long. He's like, you should just buy it if it's that important to you. It doesn't matter if it has a ripple in it.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'll let you know how that goes, because
Please do.
I do want to get it done. But something like that, I mean, if it's as stark as it looks like in the scan, yeah, I would probably get it done. I mean, I think that's kind of on the easier side of restoration work, and I think most people are pleasantly surprised that restoration work isn't super expensive. I mean, probably depending on the amount of things you had to get done.
Right.
But just fixing a small tear, or removing glue stains, or or flattening a piece of art. Maybe it got damaged in the mail or something. But it might take a little bit of time for the restorer to fix it. But I don't think, by and large, it's very expensive to get it done.
Yeah, I may give it a shot. It's something I've definitely thought about with this one.
Peter wanted to know what year that was from.
I want to say it's 62. I'm not positive of that, but I think that's right.
Okay. And Mickey says as well, Mickey's probably got a fair amount of experience with restoration, considering the size of his collection. But yeah, I mean, it can be fixed relatively easily, I think. Oh, here's something a little different.
So this is Andy Lee, and who's one of my favorite artists. He used to live here in Atlanta. He now lives in Hawaii, and that is his version of Beppo the Super Monkey. I got a piece from Andy years ago, I want to say at Atlanta Comic Convention, that was run by my friend Brian DePadro at the time, and still does, although he does it as a mail order business now, called Classic Comics. And then Brian was nice enough to put me in touch with Andy, and then I've been friends with Andy ever since, and I have many pieces in my gallery from him. My wife doesn't always appreciate all of my comic art, certainly the volume of my comic art, but and to be fair, when we got married, I had 2 portfolios, and now I no longer know how many portfolios I have, so I have bought quite a bit. But when on our first date, believe it or not, I brought some Andy Lee art with me in a portfolio. I wanted to know what she was getting, so there was no there was no subterfuge with me. So ultimately, and it's obviously not this piece with this monkey, I ultimately proposed using Andy's art. I had Andy paint me as a groom, and we were on a trip to Charleston together, and I pulled out my portfolio. She said she thought I was behaving so strangely, she thought I was about to break up with her. I told her it wasn't impossible that I would have broken up with her on a place that we had driven several hours away, but it was highly unlikely. And so I showed her various Andy Lee paintings, including Ace the Bat Hound, Krypto the Super Dog, probably this one. And then I flipped a page, a painting of me as a groom holding out a ring, and asked her to marry me. And believe it or not, she accepted.
That is a good story, man.
Which was good, because I had Andy also paint her as a bride, which would have been kind of a waste if she had said no. So
that is another first, Shannon. First it was the tracking chip, and now this proposal. That's it's been a while since I saw Andy. He was always a regular in at the Pittsburgh show that I would go to when I lived in Northeast Ohio. And so when I first started collecting, I went to that show every year, probably from like 2000 to 2005 or 2006, and he was usually set up there. I'd gotten a couple of pieces from him as well. I mean, one piece is still in my collection where that he did for my son. It was like a transformer, but I loved his style. I thought it was fun. He was quick. It was always cool to watch him draw. So yeah, very fun guy. Very interesting guy.
Super nice guy. So as I mentioned, I'm a big Milestone fan. This is by Dennis Cowan, and it's from the Worlds Collide storyline, where Steel encounters hardware. I don't think I bought this from the dealer that always wrote my address on the back, but I bought it around the same time.
Well, I love Dennis's work. We've had him on the show a few times, and yeah, this is a nice page. I love the layout on it. It's just all classic Dennis on this piece. And where did you get this one?
I bought it on eBay, but I don't recall from whom.
Okay.
I bought a fair number of Worlds Collide. Really, all the ones I could get back then. And I got a few more later, but I know this was one of the early ones.
Nice. So you're still regularly buying art on eBay? I mean, it's hit or miss for me going there anymore.
No, not really. I mean, it is hit or miss for me as well. Last year, we were on vacation at Christmas time, and or actually at Thanksgiving, and you mentioned having keywords saved. I've had Xombi, Xombi, saved on eBay ever since I got on eBay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for the first time, a Xombi page by J.J. Birch was listed. I put in a ridiculously high bid, and I bought it for a ridiculously cheap price. And it's the only page I've ever seen. I mean, there are occasionally you run across J.J. Birch Fool Killer pages. I've owned some. And other things he drew under his real name as well, but I never see a Xombi page. And no, eBay is very hit and miss. I think I have purchased 2 pages on eBay in the last year. One was a Nick Cardy Backlash page, which I still can't believe I found on eBay. And then the other, but I'm a huge Nick Cardy fan as well. And then the other was this Xombi page.
Well, congrats on that.
Thank you.
Well, I don't even know when the last time I got a piece off eBay. I mean, it's definitely been a few years, maybe early in the pandemic, I think. But because I've got my tried and true keywords set up there, I get regular emails, but usually it's production art or a print. It's not what I'm looking for. It's categorized items, unfortunately.
Bill, I hate to do this. May I run and get a charger? This light is depleting my computer. I will.
Yeah. Oh, he was right. He knew it. You've heard that little jingle. We heard it a little bit earlier. So we'll hang out and wait for Shannon to get back here. So yeah, this has been fun. I've met Shannon at a few shows, but we hadn't really had the chance to talk at length before. I'll switch myself to full screen here, so we'll have to watch his thing spinning. But yeah, fun so far. I mean, we're pretty much like 2/3 of the way through the artwork too. Got a few more pieces to look at, but I could use this opportunity to remind everybody that what was it? There was that Cartoonist Society thing that 4C is working on, right? Let me swing over to that. Gosh, I don't even know where I hid that image. But where are we here? Comic Art Live. Do we there? No, I've got it anywhere. But 4C Comics, who many of us were on the chat prior to this last show. Oh, here we go. I found it. So Mike Raining is going to be, well, he's not going to be on it, but 4C is going to have several books, some with remarks on it, on Tuesday, December 27th at 7 p.m. So that's next week at 7 p.m. on the 4C Comics channel. And the proceeds from all the sales of those comics, signed or remarked, will be going to the National Cartoonist Society. And Ken has been doing that. He's done like, I think 4 or 5 of these already. And they're always, a good time going to a good cause. And I would highly encourage everyone who is free. Of course, that's between Christmas and New Year's, so I totally understand. But if you can tune into that, I would encourage you to do it. Pick up a few things. I haven't gotten anything signed from Matt before, but it's going to be hosted by Bill Morrison. I did not know that. Thank you, Varanga. And Marcus says, my favorite artist. Well, there you go. I mean, I'm going to try to tune in. I'll be in Ohio at that time. But, and Shannon is back here. I can drop that and bring Shannon back in. Hey, Shannon.
Sorry about that. I should have asked you that about 10 minutes before, but I didn't realize it was going that quickly.
No, that's all right. Not a problem. I took care of a public service announcement. Let's see here. Where was that? Have we talked about
the Milestone one?
What's that?
We just finished with the Worlds Collide one.
Yes. Here we go. Another color piece. I think. Well, no, we have one other one too.
So this is Jesse Rubenfeld, who does works based on, not all the time, but a lot of his work is based on superheroing, if you will. the works of Norman Rockwell. And one of the things I have done in my collecting is if I can't find a page, for example, from this early Krypto appearance where Krypto has saved these puppies from a fire. I want to say it's Superboy 56. That sounds right. But in any event, I had Jesse paint a series of commissions, including this one, which is based on that one. The little dog at Krypto's feet is a Japanese Chin, and that is my Chin Lu, who sadly died back in 2018, but she's immortalized in this painting. And if you remember the original, well, for those of you who remember the original Superboy cover, Superboy is saying this is a job for Superboy, and he's rescuing some people from a fire, and then Krypto is carrying a box of puppies saying this is a job for Superdog.
Well, it turned out beautiful.
Oh yeah, it is one of my, I have lots of favorites by Jesse, but that is one of my absolute favorites. And he's a joy to work with on commissions as well, and highly affordable.
Well, there you go. Everybody says it looks great.
Thank you. This is based on a boy's life calendar. There are 4 different seasons, and this is one of them.
Wow. And what was the name of the artist again?
Jesse Ian Rubenfeld.
I have heard of the name. Well, that's gorgeous, and it's nice to have your pet immortalized like that.
Oh, thank you. I think Mr. Red Jack is probably with us. Brian, are you out there? I think yes, there he is. He's gotten one from Jesse as well.
Oh, sweet. Another thing that CAF has helped foster is other people getting commissions when they see somebody else get one that they like. That's always a good thing.
Exactly.
Krypto's cape is on fire.
Yes, it is.
Oh, here we go. This is a really wonderful Schaffenberger.
Yes, well, as I said, Superman family will always be near and dear to my heart based on those old Piggly Wiggly days. And I loved everything about Superman family, especially Krypto, but also the Kandorian, Batman and Robin, Nightwing and Flamebird. And this is a nice piece with the whole cast. In fact, I want to say Mickey bought a cover or back cover from this very book recently. Does that sound right, Mickey? I think that's true.
I think he'll let us know.
I'm sure he will.
But you say it's a nice piece. It's fantastic. I mean, so many characters on here. I mean, it's just a really fun page.
Oh, thank you very much. I said to myself when I bought it, I don't need to buy any more Superman family after this. This could be it, but I don't know that that's really true. But it is. I can't imagine topping this one. I'll say that.
Yeah, never say never.
Right.
Let's see. Next piece here.
So this is my Teddy, who sadly died last year, but he was my favorite dog of all time, and he is drawn here by my friend David McAdoo, or painted here by my friend David McAdoo, as the 8th Doctor Who. And it was Dave's idea to make the sonic screwdriver into a chew toy. Dave is someone I met, not through CAF, but actually through Christian Slade, who is the creator of Corgi at Heroes Con. And then later, Dave was staying at the same hotel I was in San Diego in 2009. I have many animal pieces by him. I have a room, I believe it's called Great Comic Book Animals by David McAdoo. But David, as I mentioned, his comic was a comic called Red Moon, which is about a little dog, a stray named Mox, that foresees the end of the world. It's definitely Watership Down influenced, but it's a great piece. It involves dogs, and so it's tailor-made for me. And he does very realistic animal art. In fact, on my gallery, if you check, there's a great Chip as a real squirrel in a Green Lantern uniform crawling down a tree. But he was, when I was wanting to do a piece of Teddy, he was the perfect one. He's actually doing one of Birdie, the one that was featured in my on my CAF advertisement as a professional wrestler. That's going to be that'll be his next piece he does for me. He's working on it now, actually.
Oh, this is fun. On the wall, I assume?
It is not actually. I have, I mentioned my dog Chin Lu, and that was one of the first pieces Dave did for me. Chin Lu is named for the Marvel Comics villain, the Radioactive Man from the Masters of Evil, later from the Thunderbolts. So I have a piece by Chin by Dave as the Radioactive Man. I have another piece by him of Chin as General Washington from the musical Hamilton. And then finally, he painted my little Emmett, my little brown and white Chin, as an Atlanta United soccer player. I'm a big soccer fan. So at some point, I'm going to have them all framed. I do have this piece on a T-shirt. And Teddy's foster mom, actually, she has it on a T-shirt as well. I gave her one. So, but yeah. They definitely will be framed one day. I recently, speaking of framing, and I wish I had gotten this done before this show, but I finally framed all 4 of those Superboy and Krypto paintings by Jesse. So Jesse Rubenfeld. So eventually they're going to go up on the wall here in our house. But as you mentioned already, Bill, there is unless you're Christopher Daly, who I idolize, there's a finite amount of wall space that you can put up stuff.
Well, I mean, his layout is like no one else. I mean,
that's exactly right.
Mickey, Dino has his closet with it's wall to wall artwork, but Christopher has just a whole living space.
Right.
If anybody hasn't seen Christopher's his CAF Cribs video, I think it was probably our last CAF Cribs video that we've gotten. It's amazing. You have to seek it out on our channel on YouTube.
Oh, it's excellent.
Marcus says he sees an empty ceiling at your house.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You'd have to be a more adept hanger than me to do that, though.
And Mickey was answering that earlier question. He said he got the back cover on Comic Art Live from the same book. So,
I thought so. I'm glad you got that.
We actually only have one more piece of art to look at because we looked at one of the later pieces earlier.
So this, as I mentioned, I'm a huge Hoppy the Marvel Bunny fan. I have, again, not being a pest, but I did correspond off and on with Carol Lay, the artist of this cover. In fact, of the entire book, Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew in the Oz Wonderland War, which features a battle between Wizard of Oz characters and Alice in Wonderland characters, drawn largely in the style that they were originally drawn in when they were first created. But Captain Carrot and his team are prominently featured. But in the second issue, a number of rabbits are featured, including my favorite rabbit, Hoppy the Marvel Bunny. I was lucky enough to purchase this from Carol back in 2021. After, like I said, talking with her about it off and on over the years. And if you check out my gallery, you'll see that I bought quite a bit of other art from this book from her as well, including both other covers and both issue 1 and issue 3 and several ads as well.
Well, it's a great composition on the cover. I mean, really, really well done. And I did not. I mean, do you have like a gallery room just for
that art? Yes, I do.
What's the title of the room?
It's called Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew in the Oz Wonderland.
Yes, I found it. Yes, there we go. I'll throw that link in.
I am way, way behind on scanning that. I bought it. I bought it over a year ago, a year and a half ago, and I've only scanned a handful of the pieces so far.
Oh yeah, you've got a lot of nice pieces in there.
Thank you.
Dang. Yeah, I can show a few off here before let me go share a screen. There we go.
I think this is a back cover. I think that's right. It's kind of interesting. It's so much better than the actual published cover because if I remember correctly, this one is on the printed version, all the black is white printed on the color back of the comic. I think that's one of the ones.
Well, that'd be an interesting choice. But no, that's fun. And yeah, like you said, you've got several pieces in here.
Yeah, this is one of the ads. And that mouth is the Cheshire Cat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are great. Huh. Carol Lay. I know I've seen her name on CAF before, but yeah, you do have a lot of art on CAF. That's a good thing, Shannon.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, my wife was reading off the little blurb you did for me, mentioning well over 1,000. She actually.
She didn't know you had over 1,000?
No, I think the last time she counted them all, she went on my gallery once and counted them, and she counted 400, I think. But that's been a while, obviously. But I got a text right when we began tonight that said that had well over 1,000, ha ha ha, and several crying emojis. So, but yeah, that's me. What can I say?
Nothing wrong with it. It's like you said, sometimes you just have to, you can't stop with 2 or 3, like you mentioned the Dick Dillon pieces earlier. You think you have enough examples from a given artist on a given title or subject matter, and you just don't. There's always another piece that's going to draw your attention. And I mean, some collectors maybe trade up, kind of use that, but other ones just like to own more, right? I mean, I don't think there's no right or wrong way to collect original comic art.
Well, I've sold quite a bit at Comic Art Live. I didn't sell that much at this time, but as I think I told you, Bill, I do have a tendency to sell other things in my gallery that were not in my for sale gallery during Comic Art Live, but which is fine because Comic Art Live draws people to the gallery. One other artist that I did not bring anything from tonight, but I want to mention for those of you that like funny animals, Jamie Cosley, who's the creator of Cody the Cavalier and also draws the lighter side in one of the Star Wars magazines. I have quite a bit of funny animal art by him and in my gallery that I highly recommend checking out. And he loves Captain Carrot as much as I do. Now that is his version of the Space Canine Patrol agents that which was a group that Krypto was a part of back in the 60s. That's another example, Bill, of a story that I've never found a page from, but I would love to have. If I understand correctly from an old friend of mine, Ray, from the old comic club I belonged to at UNC, their fight song is the Space Canine Patrol agent fight song is based on a Notre Dame football fight song. I'm not a Notre Dame college football fan, so I can't attest to that, but that's what I have heard.
Interesting. Well, no, that's cool. I mean, that's an artist I've never heard of, Jamie Cosley. Everybody's giving me a hard time that I spilled the beans for you as far as the amount of artwork that you have.
No, it's okay. It was out there. It was out there, and I don't have anything to hide. It was totally fine. Yeah. No one needs to criticize Bill for that, I promise.
But I did like, I highlighted the Anand's comment about on to the next 1,000.
Right. Well, when I see Mr. Easy Go Lucky saying in each artwork was $5, no, I don't think I could actually sell that, but I do appreciate that thought.
Oh boy. Well, I hope, typically when we do a chat like this, we always have you get a lot more traffic into your CAF gallery, and people tend to leave some comments, more likes than usual. So I hope you do get a little bit of extra attention there. And a lot of people watch these chats after the fact because they can't tune in live. So hopefully you have as you work your way towards the holiday, you have lots of fun comments and a few emails, maybe a few new friends will turn up out of having done our chat tonight.
Well, I hope so. Thank you very much.
No, this is great, Shannon. I'm glad you were available to do it. I mean, this is fun. I really do like speaking to collectors who have completely different tastes than I do, and you're clearly you're not just stuck on pets. You love Swamp Thing as well. I've talked with a few Swamp Thing collectors before. But it's fun, and I think it exposes us all to a different set of artists and titles and characters that I think are good. I mean, the hobby's not all about spandex and superheroes, right? And that's okay, And I think that when we were talking about been talking about the best of that are coming up, at the end of this year. I had somebody email me today saying, it would be nice if you had a non-superhero category for these art awards, because at the end of the day, all the best artwork is always going to go to this, the superheroes. and I'm like, and I'm thinking he's right, but but that would just make a lot more voting categories we'd have to deal with, which probably isn't good. But it exemplifies that the idea that there is so much other artwork out there than just superhero specific artwork from our favorite artists. And I think, and we don't get exposed enough to those sorts of things, because it's just not the focus of 95% of the collectors out there. So I admire that you've got the collection that you've got. It's very unique, and I really enjoyed getting the chance to talk with you. I mean, I'm sure we're going to see each other sometime in 2023. I hope.
Oh, definitely.
Heroes for sure.
Oh yeah, Heroes is. You can always count on me to be at Heroes. Unless it would have to be a pandemic type closure with Shelton himself closing it down for me not to be there. I've actually been at every Heroes since at least 2000, and I'm not sure when I started going, but sometime in the 90s probably. So yes, we'll definitely, I know you had talked about, at least the last time I saw you, talked about coming back to Heroes. So if you do come back, we'll definitely see each other there.
Yeah, I'm sure we will do some form of, kickoff event, and maybe we'll even try to do something on Saturday evening too. A couple of the reps that I spoke with wanted to try to do an OA get together. So yeah, I'm definitely going to go, and we will Excellent. Keep everybody in the loop on what we'll put together. But yeah, it'll be fun. It was my favorite show this past year. There was so many CAF members there. I don't think I've seen that many CAF collectors in one place.
Right. I definitely met some CAF collectors there that I'd never met before, actually, at this Heroes as well.
Yep. Well, we'll be back at it. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. I think we had a good audience tonight, and I'm glad that you enjoyed the conversation. Shannon, again, if there's ever anything I can do for you, just let me know. But I look forward to seeing you again in 2023.
That sounds great. Thanks.